Post-its for my daughter. Japan. Right there. So this is my story about going to Japan. This was to set up the shark show. I became one of the people that traveled all over this country, Canada, and Japan, to set up the show. And usually my job is to go there with all the plans, how to set up the show, and then I work with the other team at different museums, and we set it up together, and I kind of control what's going and what needs to be here and all this other stuff. And then another part of my job is to put out the artifacts. So in other words, we check everything to make sure there's no damage or any kind of things happen to them. So we go over them with gloves and the whole 9 yards, and then put them back in a secure location, and then everything is shipped to the next venue or whatever. So so when I started going, it was kind of like in the middle of the afternoon. Of course, going to Japan is quite a flight, and when I got there, it was early in the morning. But it was kind of like dinner time in Japan. So it was already a long day. But when you're a guest in Japan, you are a guest in Japan, and they want to show you their country. They're very proud. It is a different world in Japan. First of all, it's the biggest men's club in the world. Everybody accepts it. That's just the way it is. But other than that, it is the most extraordinary place I've ever been to. Now, the person that greeted me, his name was Shinichi, and he became kind of my tour guide and friend, and introduced me to a lot of stuff. So, of course, he wants to take me out to dinner. So, first thing he does, he finds me a hamburger place. Okay, it's probably about maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, somewhere around there. And we went to this, place, and of course, I didn't understand what was written there, but I could see the pictures. So I pointed to the hamburger right there, and of course, like all menus that you've ever been to in this country, you see that it's a stylist that has designed this plate so that the sauces are dripping off at a certain spot, and the cheese is at a corner angle, and the lettuce is all fluffed out, and the tomato's big, and the bun is all puffed out. And that's when we get that in here, it's like, no, that's not what you're going to get. You're going to get this smashed down thing. You're going to look like somebody threw lettuce on there, and it's off to your plate. And it's like something we've accepted here. I mean, there may be some places out there that the food you get looks different from the picture, but I have never experienced it. So when I got this plate with my hamburger, it looked like they photographed the plate I got and put it in the picture before I got it. It was perfect. I mean, the bun was all kind of just so perfectly round. It was just like the picture. I mean, it was exactly like the picture. It was just, even the French fries looked like they were arranged. And that's one thing I want to bring up. The Japanese take pride in everything they do. Everything is an art form, whether it's drinking tea, which is a ceremony of how they hold the cup and how they twist it for the clean edge and how they wipe it. Everything is an art form. They are really so proud of their artists. They are revered like above and beyond anybody. It's just a fascinating country. Anyway, so I was an artist, and I was a guest artist. So the first day. So okay, it's probably going into maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and Shinichi tells me, "Oh, do you want to go to the bathhouses?" And of course, I have all these images of, the stuff on TV. Not like that, but the experience was completely the most amazing thing. First, you go there, and you have your towels and everything on this little bench that's up front of the mirror, and you brush your teeth and you get all prepared. And then you go into the shower and clean off, and then you go into a mineral bath. So you soak in there for a while. Then you come out and you have another shower to clean off and everything like that. And then you go into a whirlpool. And I think there was another shower or whatever involved, but it was just like. Anyway, so after all that, you go into a steam room and you're like of course I was tired anyway, but all of a sudden you just feel like spaghetti that's been left boiling way too long. So they give you this really luxurious robe that feels like a fur coat, and you go out to this big hall and these big chairs that have everything there. There's a giant screen there, and you're hit right there, and of course you have your drink there waiting for your turn to get a massage. And it's separated. The men are on one floor and the females are on the other floor, so that you never meet. Anyway, so of course I'm just kind of like staring there, like trying to have a drink, but not really working so well. And then my number came up, and so I go in there, and of course I had a little towel wrapped around me, and this older woman that had so much experience, and I'll explain that because there is this thing. Anyway, it's all pressure. So she twisted, turned, folded me like a rubber band. I was in so many directions, and she was just pressing stuff. And then at the very end, she got on the table and was kneeling on it, and she wrapped my back on her two thighs and started pushing pressure to just kind of stretch me out to a point that only she knew how far my body would go. Because I was thinking, okay, one more inch and you broke me in half. But she knew by the sensitivity of how far and how much pressure I was resisting and trying to get to it, to a place she wanted to stretch me out to the max. Anyway, so by the time I was finished with that, I was just jello. So we're walking out to the car, me and Shinichi. This is first day. And we're walking across the street. This is how things work there. He stepped on the curb, and we're going to his car, and he sees a car coming in the street. It was still a little distance away. He jumps up and jumps behind me, and he throws his arms behind me, like throwing himself in front of the car until I got on the sidewalk or on the curb. And it was just like, whoa. Anyway, so that was like the first day. And of course, I, ready to go to work because I was going to be there for a week or two or something like that. And got to the place, beautiful museum. And they're not like states, they're prefectures. So every place is broken down to prefectures. So I was in the Ibaraki prefecture, very close to that nuclear plant that blew up. Anyway, close, not in the neighborhood, but it was close. Now, I was a guest in their country. And when you're a guest in their country, you are a rock star. And me being an artist and a guest, I could not do anything. They took my briefcase with all my plans and wouldn't let me do anything. They wouldn't even let me see my briefcase until I was ready to go home. And all they did was take me to places, feed me. They're so proud of their country, and went everywhere with an accountant an interpreter, and Shinichi. No matter where we were at or whatever we're doing, those three people were surrounding me. I could not open a door. They would run to the door and open it up for me. I could not carry a briefcase. They took the briefcase from me, so I wouldn't be carrying the briefcase. They kind of showed me around the museum and met the director. Now, this is the key. If you ever go to Japan, do your research, because Americans can be very rude and they hate rudeness. So you speak softly and you have to be very polite. They respect that. And that's what I read about, and that's what I researched. And I also brought a bottle of 12-year-old scotch, which was, at that time, was really hard for them to get scotch. And eventually I met the director of the museum. Of course, I presented him with a gift, and he was really, appreciating. Of course, he opened it up and he toasted me, and we had a little toast. And that must have set something, or I don't know what, but it changed a lot of things. So they took me to a lot of, pottery. Pottery is a very precious thing to them. And so they just gave me gifts all the time. They were like, took me to pottery. There was so many gifts and kind of prints, and took me into Tokyo. Now, here's the funny thing. Okay, so we're going to the train. And of course, like normal, they blasted through those doors. Well, I was walking toward, and one went this way, one went that way, and looked for an empty seat because it gets really crowded there, and waited for me to get on the train. And when I went to them, they stood up and wanted me to sit down, and they stood the whole way from Ibaraki to Tokyo. And I didn't want to insult them, so I just kind of did, it was like I was feeling uncomfortable, I knew, but that was their thing. Went into Tokyo, they showed me all the stuff. Of course, they were really proud of everything. Now, here's the thing about Tokyo. And it's probably like the whole country, because there is no trash anywhere. Everything is manicured, everything is clean, everything's polished. It's like, if there's trash there, it's not from them. It's from other people that are not belong to their country, because they take pride in everything. Even the gas stations are immaculate. There's no oil on where you drive up. There's no pumps. There's this big pole in the middle and this round circular thing. And we drove into to get gas, and all of a sudden a guy comes up with it's like back in the 50s, he had a bow tie and a white shirt and gloves and the whole 9 yards, and he comes in, he bows to the Shinichi because he was driving, and all of a sudden this pump comes out of the sky from nowhere, fills it up, and then it just kind of disappears. Now, here's what's so funny. That same guy that was filling up the tank, he runs out to the middle of the street, stops traffic so that you can drive into the street, and then he bows to you as you leave. Jeez. Okay, this is like, and it was like that for everything. They took me to this really fancy Japanese garden restaurant, and I had flowers for my salad, all these edible flowers, and the food was just beautiful every single time. Eventually, all those things are happening. They were touring me all over the country, and just kind of most amazing experience of my life. I found out that they were making a banquet in my honor. The entire museum was there. But they found out I didn't like fish, because they had this fish banquet buffet that was going to be from every person who eats sushi's dream of ever. And they found out I didn't like chicken. The day before the banquet happened, so I'm sure they had everything prepared, they changed the entire banquet to have meat and chicken. Yeah, it just blew me away. And, it was just way out there. Anyway, so I was packed up with all these gifts, and everybody, was talking to me, and like I said, I felt like a rock star. And eventually I came home. Of course, I do a lot of those trips, so it's typical. I go get off the plane and, walk to the airport and go to get my car. No one opened any doors for me. No one carried my briefcase. And that was my experience in Japan. Now, what's so amazing is months and months and months later, there was a Japanese delegation that came back to the museum, and they all asked about Mr. Steve. They all remembered my name and were all wondering and concerned of how I was doing. Yeah, that was quite an experience. Now, I did put this is an experience from the museum, but this is another video for my daughter. And at the beginning, I don't know how to work YouTube, of course, but this was a lot of Post-its, and in the very beginning, but writing about the experience and me explaining it, it's totally different. I'm not a very good writer, but hopefully someday my daughter and my friends, some friends have heard this story, and but I thought just putting it on a video. I know I don't have too many people following me, so like I said, it's basically for some of my friends and my daughter. Anyway,